So anyway, my name's Tracy Ivanovich. I'm president and honored to be so. And in honor of Memorial Day, I'd love everybody to please stand if you're able, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so today for Thought for the Day, we're not going to have one, and we're not going to do happy dollars because we have the Bloomington Rotary Foundation update. So I guess I'm thoughtless today. With that, I'd like to ask Bill Brown to come up and share the reflection.
Well, I celebrated birthday over the weekend, and I thought I'd play around with Perplexity AI and see if I could perplex AI with some perplexing questions. The first one was, how far have I traveled this year? Well, I can estimate that I walked, jogged, drove, flew about 9,800 miles on or near the surface relative to my home address at speeds ranging from 3 to 550 miles per hour. But that's the least of my travels, as it turns out. Perplexity tells me that spinning around the Earth at 40 degrees north latitude, I covered another 19,060 miles per day, or 6.9 million miles at 794 miles per hour. Orbiting the sun, I covered 584 million miles at 66,000 miles per hour. As the sun dragged our solar system along around the centroid of the Milky Way, I was going 500,000 miles per hour, and I traversed another 3.9 billion miles. Relative to the cosmic background radiation, which marks a particular spot in the universe, the Milky Way moved at 824,000 miles per hour towards the constellation Leo. With all that linear, helical, and oscillating motion, I've traveled over 5.88 billion miles this year since my last birthday. So have you. Unfortunately, no frequent flyer miles. We are all passengers on this tiny blue spaceship hurtling toward the constellation Leo in a non-linear whirling path. Standing here together, however, we sense none of that celestial chaos. Second question, how rare am I? What are the odds of me existing? The probability of my parents meeting was 1 in 20,000. The chance that they stayed together long enough to conceive me was 1 in 2,000. So just in that generation, I have a 1 in 40 million chance of being here in front of you today. There's a genetic lottery. The likelihood of the exact sperm and egg combination that produced me rather than a sibling is 1 in 400 quadrillion. The ancestral survival chain, every ancestor survived long enough to mate in my ancestral chain. That is 1 in 10 to the power of 2,685,000. This is a ridiculous number given that the estimated number of atoms in the universe is 10 to the power of 80. In other words, whether this is exact or not, my odds of existing are essentially 0. And yet here I am, and so are you. Or God had me in mind since the creation of the world and arranged everything through the millennia to assure that I arrived in my current form at this time and place to serve his purpose. Either way, through astounding mathematical unlikelihood or an act of God, I am among the rarest of supernatural beings, unique in all time. So are each of you. We all have a 100% chance of being here in this moment. We all have a 100% chance of reaching the end of our lives at some point. So look closely at the person next to you. They are unique in the history of the universe. Unless there are parallel universes, but I'll save that quantum mechanics for another reflection. So finally, why am I here? Biologically, I exist because of evolution, the result of countless generations of recombinations of genetic material, subject to mutations that occasionally improve survival. Given that humans have tripled in population in my lifetime, we may have overshot our biological reason to be. If my only reason to be was to pass on my genes, I've been extraneous for the past 38 years. Culturally, elders acted as keepers of ancestral wisdom, healers, creators, mentors, storytellers, and leaders. Perplexity generated a brief summary of the philosophies and religions and even provided a handy chart showing purpose of life in a nutshell for each of those philosophies and religions. So I'm not going to insult people in this room who've devoted their life work to philosophy and religion by reading the simplistic nutshells that AI produced. But what struck me about that imperfect table was that these philosophies and religions all have some merit. All have centuries of accumulated wisdom, all have something to offer. We're all racing through time and space together as impossibly rare supernatural beings on the same tiny spaceship. We are all the rarest of creatures, worthy of being seen and heard. Research by social psychologist Keith Payne, described in his book, Good Reasonable People, reveals that people view themselves and their groups as good, reasonable people. That is something nearly all of us have in common. So, fasten your seatbelts, fellow travelers. It's time for everyone to take another trip around the sun together. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Now I know why we have AI. So, Mark, could you come up and do the introduction of the guests?
If you would please rise when I read your name so we can acknowledge you. We have Willow Irwin, a guest of Liz Irwin. There she is. We have Nikki Bell, a guest of Hank Walter. There he is. Andrea Alui, a guest of James Chang. And Maisie Cochran, a guest of Sarah Cochran. Where is she? I don't see her right now. Anyhow, do we have anybody online?
We have people online, but none of them happen to be guests. We are all Rotarians.
Should have been more specific. Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, Maisie's in the stroller on this traveling in time with us here. So I'm glad to have her here, Sarah. The anniversaries and birthdays, Bill Brown, happy birthday on the 25th, yesterday. Marcus DeBrow on the 30th. And then for anniversaries, Marcus DeBrow, 4 years, Joy Harder, 19 years, Judy Lucas, 28 years, and Wilson Shatandi, 2 years. For announcements, we received a lovely note from our fellow Rotarian Kim Gray in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. She exchanged banners with the club. Check out this week's roundabout and you'll be able to read about it. Congratulations to the service committee for securing approval from the district foundation team for full funding of the $3,000 towards our Meals on Wheels service project. It's now progressing to the Rotary Foundation for approval. And please keep Mr. Rotary Jim Bright in your thoughts and prayers as he is suffering from pneumonia. He's on the uptick, so that's good. But send him your good thoughts. And Don Hostler, my goodness, you're already back. You just had back surgery. You're already back as you prepare for shoulder surgery. So it's good to have you here. Lastly, there were 4 living room conversations held this past weekend. The Peace Building Committee worked diligently to help facilitate creating an environment for conversations with opposing viewpoints that were healthy. More information on that can be found on our Facebook page. And with that, I'd like to invite Sally Gaskell up for the Bloomington Rotary Foundation report.
Hey, everybody. Okay, great. I am here because I have served as the president of Bloomington Rotary Foundation for the last year, and I'd like to start by asking anyone who's ever served on the foundation board to please stand if you are able and be thanked. Sarah, John, Alan, including current members, thank you all. So we are obliged by our foundation bylaws to do an annual meeting once a year. And it's also, I think, always a good time to review who it is, who are we and what do we do? First of all, we are not a committee of the Bloomington Rotary Club. We are an independent-ish 501c3 organization, and our purpose is to support the charitable work of the club, to support the club's mission. We're a membership organization, a nonprofit membership organization. Guess who the members are? All of you Rotarians and everyone else who's not here today. So thank you for attending our annual meeting. We do have a board of directors, and that is made up entirely of club members. So we are an independent nonprofit, but I did say ish because we are closely affiliated with the Bloomington Rotary Club. A little bit of our history. We were founded in 1986, just prior to there being women allowed in the club. By 1998, we had created a fund at the Community Foundation, which we continue to have. We contributed startup funding for Teachers Warehouse almost 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. And then in 2015, we began receiving Toast funds on behalf of the three Bloomington Rotary clubs. We serve as a bank, if you will, for the other two clubs, and they ask us for permission to withdraw their funds as they see fit to invest them in community service. And that's what the Toast funds are used for, is community service. Also in 2015, the 80/20 Fund was created to help support our club centennial. And the 80/20 Fund is where you put $20 on your invoice and 4 times a year, and that goes directly into the coffers of the Bloomington Rotary Foundation for our philanthropic work. In 2022, under the then president of the foundation, Lauren Snyder, we started the Fountain of Youth campaign with the vision of endowing our high school and Ivy Tech scholarships. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that. So our current focus is, in fact, 2 general areas: scholarships, funding them annually and raising money to endow them in perpetuity, and also community service. So to start with the community service piece, as I mentioned, the funds from our annual Toast proceeds are directed to that, to community service. And we have been supporting different programs of the club with those community service dollars over the years. First of all, our refugee program, which is primarily powered by volunteer labor, but also has some cash expenses from time to time. We're able to fund that as part of our community service work. The annual district grant that you just heard about, which is going to go to Meals for Wheels this year, Meals on Wheels this year, there's a required match of $3,000, and that comes from the community service dollars as well. When I became president, I wanted to take a look at reducing the amount of dollars sitting in the bank that are supposed to go to community service in Bloomington and beyond, but hadn't been. They'd simply been sitting there, not even earning much money, to tell you the truth. So we worked with the community service committee of the club and determined that we would give a large grant for us, $20,000, to support the Beacon Capital Campaign. We did that last fall, and we still have about $20,000 left in the community service coffers, and hopefully that will continue to grow when everyone buys their Toast tickets for this fall. And a portion of those proceeds, not all of them by any stretch, but a portion of those proceeds do come back to our club to continue to grow community service funding. So we have, at this point, set up a grant-making committee made up of Alan Barker, Claire Kest, and I to continue to spend down the surplus of funds. We've got some ideas that we're considering. We would love anyone's input. You're all members of the foundation, and so that's that. The other big thing that we're working on is the Fountain of Youth campaign to endow scholarships. Several of us have talked about this several times to the club, but we have new members, and it's worth talking about again. So We raise funds to fully support our annual scholarships. We're not there yet. That is the goal. That's why we have to do hyper happy dollars every spring to fund the scholarships in a way that we want to. Our goal for the endowment campaign, which is spending interest from the principal, is to raise $200,000 by 2030. That was the goal when Lauren Snyder started the campaign in 2020. We're pretty close. We have raised about $138,000 and have outstanding pledges of $26,000 for a balance of $164,000 raised or to be donated. And so our balance is $36,000. That's totally doable. It's pretty exciting. I want to particularly thank Sarah Laughlin and Liz Feidel for being on the fundraising committee with me over the last couple of years. And as we always like to say, if you're at all interested in supporting this major impact of education and this hope of scholarships to young people, talk to us, and we'd love to work with you. And now, as is part of any annual election, any annual meeting, it's time for our annual election. And I want to thank our outgoing board members, the past president of the foundation, Trent Deckard, Liz Feidel, Claire Kest was our treasurer, and Jim Shea. Thank you all very much. And here is the slate for this coming year. Alan Barker, president. Ron Barnes, thank you very much for stepping to the plate, Ron, to be our vice president, which is technically a president-elect position. Sarah Laughlin, our secretary. John Zodi, our new treasurer. We have two people who will be elected to a new 3-year term today, if you agree. Myself and Jim Capshew. And then continuing as directors are Amy Osajima, Jarno Rodich, Hank Walter, and John Weichert. So I need a, I need a motion. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy has moved. Jeff Richardson has seconded. Someone else probably did as well. But thank you all in favor of this slate for the 2024-2025 Bloomington Rotary Foundation. Dang it. 2025-2026 Bloomington Rotary Foundation Board of Directors. Please say aye. Whew, okay. Thank you. And I just want to close by once again mentioning how all of you can participate in the work of the foundation. You can opt into the 80/20 fund. About 50 Rotarians currently do that. We're always looking for more. You can make a pledge to the Fountain of Youth campaign. You can make a bequest in your will. And bear in mind that unlike our fabulous Rotary Foundation, TRF, the Rotary Foundation, which goes with Rotary International, unlike them, they invest in global and local dollars. All of your money in the BRF will stay in this community. And finally, huge thanks to all who have given and who currently give. Thank you very much.
All right. And with that, I'd like to invite Michael up to introduce our special program.
All right. First, the formal bio. Caleb Poer is an American artist based in Bloomington, Indiana. His work has been featured in public art displays at prominent venues such as the Eiffel Building, John Walden Art Center, and Butter 3 in 2022 and 2024. Caleb was honored with the Emerging Artist Grant. Caleb serves on the John Walden Art Center Visual Arts Committee and volunteers at the IFL building. As an artist, his work reflects his fascination with desire, untethered beauty, and simplicity. His work is focused on how we see ourselves, the objects around us, and the quiet significance that lies in the details of every life. And now the fun. It's great to see Caleb around City Hall, where he works in the Parks and Rec department. One of his tasks there is to pilot drones to take photos. And we get to see his photos all the time, and they're always really, really great. You'll hear more about Caleb's role in the community mural, but I was very pleased to be able to do a bit of painting on it myself. It's on the edge of my neighborhood, so I came by and helped paint a little bit. It was such a cool project to be together with everyone doing it and having Caleb be part of running it all. And just a little tidbit, the IMU recently purchased one of Caleb's pieces with money from donors to add some new pieces to their art collection. It is currently out being framed, but you will soon be able to see it hanging in the Union, and we can hope for an update from Hank on where it will be. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to one of our own, Caleb Poer.
Thanks. Well, thank you, Michael, for that introduction. I feel very special, especially with Bill's reflection. That's pretty neat. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about a public art project that I was a part of. And as we dive in, I want to start with a question. Does public art matter? And I want to get an answer, so we'll go on 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this should be pretty easy for me then. Well, it's a real question, right? It can make a regular wall visually pleasing, or adding a big statue can kind of add ambiance to a space. But when we ask, is it really necessary? I say yes. In cities like ours, it's a way to celebrate shared values without needing words. It develops our community identity and culture, and it makes our spaces attractive to those who might start a business, come here for school, or choose it as a place to live. At the beginning of 2024, my public art experience was pretty small. I did a temporary chalk mural, which lasted about a week until we had one of those Indiana days with all 4 seasons in about an hour. So that washed away, but soon after I got the opportunity to design one of the parklet covers that makes its appearance every summer when we close down Kirkwood. So if you eat at Uptown, you'll see it there this year. So I had one temporary piece of art and one that makes a 4-month appearance. So when the opportunity came to design something permanent, I really had to jump at it. On the corner of 11th and Rogers Street is one of Bloomington's Duke Energy substations. They collaborated with the City of Bloomington Economic and Sustainable Development Department to activate this wall. And when we say activate, it's a creative term. It basically just means make this not boring anymore. I was fortunate to join Emily Wilson Gillespie and Diego Manansala on the mission to paint this wall and bring it to life. And so at our orientation, we sat down to ask, what do we want this mural to mean? What is our goal here? We landed on a mission statement that guided every step after. We will facilitate a collaborative workspace which contributes to the enhancement of the Bloomington community by emphasizing virality, neighborhood connectivity, and the soulful realities of the arts. And you may find it interesting that our mission began with a promise of our collaboration, but during our orientation, I'd never met Emily before, and I'd only had a few conversations with Diego. So we decided that the best way to ground the project was with a shared commitment that didn't just honor the community, but also how we were going to work together. When we say contributes to the enhancement of the Bloomington community, it reminded us that this piece of art was for the public, not just for aesthetic value, but it was about making this neighborhood feel seen and creating a space that people can take pride in. Virality pointed to the flora and fauna that we wanted in the mural. Native plants, pollinators, and animals. We didn't just want them to be a backdrop or decoration, but an actual representation of the living, breathing ecology that we can find in our region and in that neighborhood. Neighborhood connectivity. It reflected our deep focus on place. We wanted the mural to include actual homes from the area, color references to local institutions, and people of all ages and identities. We wanted it to celebrate what binds neighbors together. And finally, the soulful realities of the arts. So that acknowledges that public art should do more than just beautify. We believe that it should feel human, it should push boundaries, carry emotion, tension, joy, and truth. And we didn't want a sterile piece. We wanted something that breathed. So that's a pretty tall order. And to give you some perspective, these are the stakeholders that we had to work for. We had the Duke Energy, of course, Maple Heights Neighborhood, Bloomington Arts Commission, our project leads at ESD, and of course the general public. Now the scale of the wall matched the scale of this project. That wall is about 16 feet tall and 64 feet wide. And we began with a 7-month timeline. And naturally the beginning of the process was to start creating drafts. To keep it free flowing, we decided to go with one consistent feature for what each of the three of us would come up with. And it was a porch party. A porch is a transitional space, which we felt made it the perfect metaphor for neighborhood connectivity. It's inviting, approachable, and it's rooted in place. It kind of blends the public and private lines of a neighborhood, and a porch party to us symbolizes that a neighborhood that cares about each other and lives together. So now let's look at how the sketches evolved from first draft to final draft. And you should understand that after each round of these, we would take them to be critiqued by one of those stakeholder groups that I had mentioned earlier. So here's what the three of us made for round one. And round one was really about getting our frame. And Emily's, which is the one at the bottom, really stuck out to us for its scope and scale. So after we had this, it was time to start thinking about what round two was going to look like, bringing in some colors and those kinds of concepts. And we landed on these two to send out to another stakeholder group. And this is where you can start to see some of the color palettes really coming forward that we wanted to work with. When we moved to round three, this is what went out to the general public. And I remember during one of the critiques, someone said, "Those people look like naked hillbillies." And as the person that designed the characters, my ego was a little bruised, but I rightfully decided to not die on the naked hillbilly hill. I returned to that mission statement that we made and went back to the drawing board, which brings us to our final version. And looking at this, you can see that we really cranked the imagination up a few notches since that first draft. We kept the core, the porch, the party, the people, but infused it with vibrant color, movement, and magic. The design grew from just this mission statement into a visionary tribute where street cats stroll like royalty, the nature is vibrant, and the neighbors blossom alongside it. And trust me, lots of people asked me, why flower people? And I said that these people plant roots and grow in this community, and I wanted to reflect that. So you can tell it isn't just a porch party, but it's a snapshot of the community. So now I want to take you through some of the elements and zoom in on a few things and talk about how we did it. So the figures in the mural aren't generic. They're drawn from both some of my earliest drafts and also my broader body of work. The clothing colors I picked were very intentional. I wanted Colts blue and white for this person on the right. You can see cream and crimson. You can see north and south colors with the two people sitting on the porch swing. And there's other diversity in age, ability, and body type. So you'll see an elder with a walker, children playing, and most importantly for me, I just didn't want it to come across as performative inclusion. You know, I wanted it to be genuinely reflective of the community that we live in. One of my favorite details that I added to this is that the guy's whistling, holding the guitar, is whistling the first few notes of Back Home Again, Indiana. So love to share that. Flora and fauna. So every plant and creature in the mural is native to Indiana or the region, with a special emphasis on the species found in southern Indiana. So you can see purple asters and swallowtails, but the flora and fauna served kind of a dual role for us. We really did want to celebrate biodiversity, but also make sure that it was grounded in a sort of realism. So the homes depicted throughout the mural are directly inspired by actual houses in the neighborhood. They anchor the scene in specificity. So it can just be a visually appealing thing that someone walks by or drives by one day, but for someone that lives in that neighborhood, they're going to directly identify with this architecture and with these houses and kind of recognize it as a mirror of their own street. Another detail is that the borders are framed by 4 maple leaves, and that's just a direct reference to the neighborhood's name, also rooting this design in place. And so they serve as a literal and figurative frame, reminding the viewers you're in Maple Heights and this is who we are. So I'll talk about how we actually painted it. And during the paint process, we created what's called a doodle grid directly on the wall. And that idea was courtesy of Diego. We did it with spray paint, and I want you to try and imagine me and Diego convincing a police officer that we weren't tagging the wall. We were just tagging it so that we could paint it. But yeah, we got those nice little signs out there after that, so that was not a problem after. And yeah, I mean, this thing is 16 foot tall. So what we would do is digitally overlay our design over the doodle grid, right? And then when we're in up close to it, we can see exactly where things need to go. And so we were up in this this boom lift, which I got a certification to run one of those, so hit me up this summer. But yeah, we'd get in there for hours, and that's really how we mapped out how we painted this thing. And now I want to talk about Community Paint Day, because Community Paint Day was one of the most meaningful parts of this project for me. We opened up the mural process and invited neighbors, families, and passerbys to grab a brush and contribute. And it wasn't just about filling in color, it was about building a connection. When people help create something, they can feel a deeper sense of ownership. It becomes theirs. I remember there was a dad with his son, and his son goes to Tri-North. So he was talking about how every day when he rides the bus, he's going to tell his friends that he helped paint that mural. And I thought that was really neat. We had people of all ages participate, kids, elders, folks who had never painted before, and some people just came and watched, and they ended up staying for hours. People told stories about their neighborhood and about their homes, their gardens, their cats, which was a hot topic, actually, believe it or not. And conversations sparked about just being in the space together. So it was very reflective of what we were painting was what was happening in front of us too. And the event shifted the dynamic from oh, look what we made, or look what they made, to a look what we made. And it turned the wall into a gathering space. It also allowed us to talk directly with community members about what the mural represents, how every element from the native plants to the porch scenes reflects Maple Heights and reflects Bloomington. And people got it and they saw themselves in it. So it was more than just a paint day. It helped the mural really live up to its purpose, not to just beautify, but to reflect and strengthen the community around it. And by early November, we had placed our final strokes, and that's how it turned out. And so I began my presentation. Oh, thank you. So I began this presentation with a question asking, does public art matter? And well, this mural answered the question for me. Every step of the process reinforced the idea that public art matters, that it's not just about beautifying a space, but building connection. And I think this piece is a showcase of Bloomington's identity, our people, our homes, our ecosystem, and our spirit. And I just want to say that this project would not have been possible without incredible contributions and support of many. So obviously my co-artists, Diego Manansala and Emily Wilson Gillespie. Christina Elam was our project manager, and she helped steer it from concept to completion. Holly Warren and Chaz Mottinger, steady support and guidance the whole way. BBM services. So while I did get the certification for that boom lift, I had no intentions of driving it. So these guys were there with us, rain or sunshine, handling all those logistics and helping us get safely around. And also Liz Irwin for your partnership and initiative on this was huge, and belief in the power that a project like this could happen. So thank you. And I'll just end with this little happy picture of me. Yeah, we can open up for questions. One more time. Well, hopefully they'll last forever. Yeah, Charlotte asked, how permanent are the paints, which is a good question. After we finished painting, we were able to go over it with the layer of this protective kind of goo, and that will keep it secure and also make it a lot easier if it ever gets tagged or something like that, then that'll make it a lot easier to clean. So it'll be around for a while. I went and checked on it after this winter, which was pretty wet and cold, and I didn't see any signs of fading. So it'll be around for a bit.
Thank you. Thank you, Caleb, and all the people who were involved. Since I live nearby, I see it pretty regularly. But I had heard a story that there were also going to be murals on some of the other walls of the substation. Who knows anything about that? Or is that just a story from the neighborhood?
I'm under the impression that that's a goal, but yeah. All right, it's a thumbs up. So we will get some more paint on there.
Thank you, and wonderful presentation,
Thank you.
Caleb. Yes, the city is currently arranging for the next wall to be completed. I don't know what stage they're at with it, but maybe somebody from the city might be able to tell. But what I'll say is that the plan is to each year do another mural on another wall until all of it is complete.
So Caleb, just out of curiosity, you have been an artist for a long time, and I know that you've done community projects and art and working with other people, but do you enjoy one more than the other? Because I know a lot of artists just, love to be by themselves creating their art, or is it more like, no, this was such a novel experience and I would do it again in a second?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I mean, after like 7 rounds of critiques, I was ready to just do my own thing for a second, but you can't replace that. Like professionally, that's the biggest piece of art that I've ever done, and also just in size wise. So from an opportunity perspective, it was amazing, and seeing all the moving parts work together was kind of like reinvigorating with faith, because the last group project I had done was in college, and we know how those go. So I'm happy with it.
So I've seen quite a few people painting the electrical boxes around. So it feels like you may have started a trend, which it looks fabulous. It feels like you've started a trend. Is that something that's part of the city sponsoring, and is there a tie-in at all?
Well, the city's ESD department is really on top of the game when it comes to offering some of these public art opportunities. The Parklet was one of them that I did with them. So I think they're really just focused on, trying to get these opportunities out there and getting more artists out. So I would think so, yeah.
Hi, Caleb. Can you share with us some background about your art education and how it brought you to the point where you are? Bring us
Sure.
back to your education. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I always used to get in trouble in school for drawing while I was probably supposed to be taking notes or something like that. And so it was just one of those things that developed all throughout childhood. And I got to college and I took a few classes, but just wasn't interested in pursuing it as a degree. And but never lost touch with it. COVID definitely gave me an opportunity to refine a lot of my technical skills. And that, I think, is what opened the window up for me to be comfortable enough to be doing something that would be viewed by the public.
Great presentation. What are you working on now? What's about to come?
Mhm.
And then what would you like to be working on in the next 5 years?
Good question. Right now, if you're at the airport, I've got some pieces hanging in Terminal A by the candy shop. So check that out if you're flying out. For June's first Friday, June 6th, I'm in a collaborative show with Second Story Studio, which is a gallery out in Nashville, as well as the Kinsey Institute. And that is honoring a 1930s queer artist named Emilio Perez, I believe. I might be getting that last name wrong, but I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be a big show. And beyond that, in the next 5 years, well, I would love to be doing art full time. So go to my website and buy something. Mhm.
So I just want you to offer a chance to share what you did study, because it's not really art related necessarily.
Yeah, I studied political science and communications.
Yeah, wonderful presentation, Caleb. I'm just curious, if you don't mind sharing, what was the budget for the project in terms of materials? And then I don't know if you can answer this question, but is one of the criteria for being selected, you have to be a local artist, and I just wonder how you feel about that.
Sure. I believe, and Liz, you might be able to help me out with this, is it 25,000 and then the city matched that, or is that in totality?
Duke Energy provided $25,000 to get started on the project, but I'm not sure what the city contributed in addition to that. I think they did contribute some money as well, and that also included stipends for the artists.
And your second question was about the selection process and it being. Yeah, for.
It's so community oriented.
I think it's really important to elevate artists within your own community. That's always where we look first. I'm on the visual arts committee for the Waldron, and we just looked through a bunch of applicants, and it's certainly something I think about is I want to bring artists to the table that are here and that are also invested in our community, but it doesn't always have to be like that. In the slide back when I was asking if public art matters, there's that new statue, and that's a German artist, and I think it's also cool to be able to bring people in too, but my heart's always with the B-Town people.
So, as I'm sure you know, Bloomington was the first city in the state of Indiana to have a percent for art ordinance that's 1% for every capital project conducted by the city. But what's really great from my perspective about what's happening now is that the city does take an initiative, but works with local corporate partners to make public art possible. So I agree. I hope to see more, and thank you, Duke, and let's get some more companies out there.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm a retired teacher, so I'm interested in how you have involved children in the schools and in the community to lend themselves and their all the things that they do so well to your project.
Yeah, I would say Community Paint Day was the biggest opportunity for kids to get out there. We actually didn't paint like the bottom 4 feet of the mural in preparation for them to be able to lay some paint down. And really, when it gets to that point, it's just getting that message out there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to reach those kids in that way unless you have a direct connection, like a teacher, to tell them about that. So a part of our effort as artists was to share it amongst our circles as much as we could, and just email blasts and Facebook posts to get the word out that there's chances like this.
So Caleb, really fantastic project and so inspiring. I'm always interested and eager to see how the arts can be sort of folded into the DNA of our community and our society rather than being something separate. And it seems like this is one of those projects that intentionally engaged and connected with so many different people. How do you see have you been surprised by activities around this in terms of what it propels and what it builds forward? And where do you think this might be going?
My hope would be that we all just kind of have a collective agreement on the importance of public art. I would love a resounding yes, like we got earlier from the entire city, and making sure increasing that 1% to like a 3%. And I mean, I believe that Bloomington can be a cultural hub of the arts in a lot of ways that aren't just limited to what we have here in the university. And a part of that is just, can we put our money where our mouth is? If we value it, can we fund it? Can we promote it?
On a
personal level, when you are making art, do you have a medium that speaks most to you? The piece of yours that I own is cut and lit and painted. But do you, when you're working, do you work obviously multimedia, but do you have a place where you really feel most at home?
I really like using that jigsaw ever since my dad gave it to me. I don't always wear the proper gear, but anytime I can cut out some wood, I'm so happy to do that. So that's why a lot of my pieces are like that.
I'm wondering if, building on Alon's question, are there any plans for like photography of that wall? I can envision, Visit Bloomington using that in promotional materials, but beyond that, do you know of anything else?
Beyond that, I don't know of anything else. I know that Visit Bloomington does have a page of local art attractions, and maybe there's another one like B Squared has one, and I think I sent them some photos that they could upload of it. But that's a good point. I'm gonna circle back around to Visit Bloomington and see if we can get that up there too. What did you say?
The posters with you signing.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Sorry to ask this again, but where exactly is it so we can go see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's on the corner of 11th and Rogers. If you want to place it, it'd be like Upland Brewery in that corner. Across the street, there's kind of some like growth. It's a little bit higher up, so you do kind of got to look for it. But the wall faces that Pets Alive hotel, dog hotel.
Caleb, you mentioned earlier critiques. What were some of the critiques and objections in general to the project?
So, I mentioned that the stray cats were kind of a hot topic because we all did tours of the neighborhood, just walking around and like driving through, and that was one of the things that we saw was there was quite a few stray cats walking around, and when we talked to people in the neighborhood, they mentioned that feeling like it was a characteristic. Now, at the same time, we're also trying to highlight all of these ecological and regional plants and flora and fauna, and the stray cats kind of disrupt that a bit. And so, you're balancing those two things, and it's like, I mean, you kind of got to take the good with the bad, even though, I love cats, so I didn't have any problem with them being there. But that's something that you wouldn't think would be controversial, but people do have an opinion on it. Obviously, they felt strongly about my hillbillies, but but that's all a part of the process. It actually was really nice in hindsight having that level of review and level of critique because we got a million different perspectives and we were able to refine and touch up things and make these subtle additions that ended up satisfying most of our people.
Do we have any questions online?
We do not have questions online. Thank you.
There are so many questions, but I just thought of one. There's another big plant down south on Rogers, down opposite the park. A really ugly, huge thing. Is there any way we can build a cover up that big ugly thing down there?
Are you talking about my house? I'm not sure what project does anybody know? Oh, the electrical station. I believe it's kind of rare for them to have walls like that.
So I'll answer the question about the big ugly electrical substation on South Rogers. If you've been by lately, you might have noticed we've done a lot of changes to that it was under construction for a while, but it has been expanded. It has been my hope that we could do something artistic with that. I have not been able to get that approval from the company at this point. As far as building a wall, that is not likely to happen because of the space that we have available. The 11th Street substation wall was something that was done because of an agreement with the city, but that is very rare for us to do unless there is a specific reason for security. So stay tuned. I'm still hoping I can do something with lighting down at that substation, but I think so far I've been turned down. Sorry.
Oh, thank you all very much.
Well, I, for one, am very proud to live in a community that offers that. And I love seeing this grow. And the story that you told was beautiful. I think we could share that more widely in this community. It might be nice to get the Bloom magazine article as well. And Michael, we might want to share with the other Rotary clubs, because it's important for us to remember that we are a community and that we can come together, even if there's controversial things. So I almost felt like it was a living room conversation to some extent up there. So thank you for that. We're donating $100 on your behalf to the Bloomington Symphony, another art project. And I'd like to acknowledge those who bring this meeting to life. Natalie, our executive assistant, Katie Cerniak for greeting, Mark Peterson for the introductions, which you could do, Joy Harder, a Zoom host, and Bill, a great reflection. Bob Salzberg for reporter, and Hank, boy, we really gave you a workout there. I think there was some intention. We'd ask a question on one side and then the next one would be on the absolute opposite side. So I think you got your workout steps for today. And then Tyler, as always, for Zoom and audio work that you've done. Our next meeting will be on the 3rd here in the French Panna Room. Our speaker will be Susan Kossel discussing certified community behavioral health clinics and a national operating model for public mental health care. That should be interesting. And with that, if we could put up the 4-way test, and those who are able, please stand. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? A little, subtle.